All right, let's take a look at what Ben Shapiro is saying.
Are you voting based on Joe Biden or are you voting based on Donald Trump? Well, we're in it now. So President Trump announced last night, as predicted, that he was going to run for president of the United States. Now, he had predicted it would be the most important speech in American history. It wasn't, but it is important. I mean, when the former president of the United States announces a new presidential campaign, his third presidential campaign, that is a rather large announcement. The timing of it is really curious. It's strategically strange. Let's put it that way. Because if you are Donald Trump, what you really want to do is clear the field, right? But if you do it too early, and there are more than 700 days until the next election, this gives people a lot of time to get very tired. And this is the real enemy for Trump. The real enemy for Trump.
Why? He's goated. The field, he will fucking annihilate the field. That's when he's best.
Is that people become exhausted. This has always been the big problem for Trump.
I don't know if Ben recognizes, but he was president for 4 years.
In 2016, people were not exhausted. It was a great act. In 2017, people were like, okay, well, he's president. This is kind of fascinating. In 2018, it didn't work out well in Congress, but his administration was doing a bunch of really, really good stuff. People were like, okay, I'll give him credit for that. And sure, there's some bad tweets. And,
like what?
And yeah, the media hate his guts. So I'll give him more of a chance. And then 2019, more of that. And then 2020, in the pandemic, I think people got exhausted with Trump. And that is one of the rationales for why he didn't do as well in the election as he should have. And that's why he did not win when running against a person who's actually comatose. Because Joe Biden was more tired than Trump, but he was less tiring than Trump for a lot of Americans. In 2020, Donald Trump exhausted a lot of people because he was on the TV every day talking about COVID, because he seemed to be sort of all over the place in his approach to that, because every day was just revolving around him. And so the election was a referendum on him. And meanwhile, Joe Biden went back to his coffin in the evenings and during most of the day, and he just slept there. And every so often they would take him out and they would spoon feed him some oatmeal just to give him the nutrients. And then they would trot him out like directly outside of his house in Delaware. They would train a camera on him and he would go,
I'm not going to lie. This is low-key kind of true. Like, he ain't wrong. This might be the first time this motherfucker's like had a sequence of words that he put together that's like kind of correct.
And democracy. And then the media would cheer. And then he'd go back down into the basement. And so he wasn't exhausting in the same way that Trump was. So the problem for Trump has always been Trump. I mean, the draw of Trump is Trump. And the problem for Trump is Trump. It's nobody else. And the obstacles that Donald Trump makes for himself are the biggest obstacles that he faces, not the obstacles made by other candidates about him. Hillary Clinton tried to make him the object of ire in 2016, and it failed. Donald Trump made himself the object of ire in 2020, and it succeeded. Well, the problem is that if you launch this quickly, I mean, this is unprecedented. I'm not aware of any other presidential campaign, certainly not by a major figure like the former president of the United States, launched about a week after the midterm elections. This is super early. And it's a weird strategy, because if you really are that intimidating, why don't you slow play this thing? If you really believe that simply having your name out there is going to prevent people from jumping in, which, by the way, it might, then why would you launch this quickly? What it sort of betrays is that Trump, his campaign, is very concerned with the possibility of other people getting in. If you watch his Truth Social feed, you see a lot of this, right? Donald Trump is attacking candidates who have not yet announced and may never announce. I'm not aware that Glenn Youngkin is going to run for.
He skipped 2018 because that doesn't benefit the narrative that he's putting out there. He's trying to make Trump look bad. In 2018 overall is like, yeah, sure, Democrats won, but it wasn't the absolute worst. Like, it wasn't a fucking full wash.
President of the United States. I'm not sure what Glenn Youngkin's support base would be. He's a very moderate Republican in Virginia. Ron DeSantis, a bit of a different story. And a lot of speculation that he's going to run specifically because he's termed out, right? Glenn Youngkin is in his first term. Ron DeSantis is in his second term. So that means that no matter what, he's leaving.
Wait, what? Why are people saying bro think he XQC? Or XU wanted me? Are you guys talking about Ben Shapiro? Wait, why? Because he's... That's the funniest criticism I've ever heard. Why give attention to it? No, because it's such a funny fucking take to say Ben Shapiro wannabe XQC so bad. I love that.
Leaving office in 2026 as governor of Florida. So if he's going to go, he sort of has to go. But he's not jumping in right now. And so the question, if you are Donald Trump, is if I jump in yesterday, November 15th, 2022, and Ron DeSantis doesn't jump in until after the end of the first legislative session, meaning in like June of 2023, that gives you, by my count, and I'm no expert, but I know how a calendar works, that gives you 8 months to simply be out there saying things. And that's very tiring. It means you're the only person at issue. I mean, if Ron DeSantis just goes about governing and doesn't pay any attention to the stuff that you're saying, and you're spending every day on Truth Social ripping into it.
I don't know, man. Trump is popular when he's on camera. He's unpopular when he's not. That's all I've seen so far. Trump not on Twitter, not on camera all the time, losing popularity. Trump on camera all the time, constantly captivating people. Pretty good for him.
To him. Is that good strategy? And do you really think that Trump has the discipline not to do that? Now, if Trump spends the next 8 months ripping into Biden, then that would be a durable campaign. But do you think he's going to do that? Or do you think that he's going to be so irritated with the fact that other people are very likely to jump in halfway through next year that he's going to preemptively try to launch strikes against them? And they're meanwhile just going to be going about their business and governing and doing their stuff. Trump runs the real danger of looking petty. The first real damage that Trump has done himself in terms of his 2024.
What? Trump has always been petty. The entire point is his pettiness is seen as authenticity. He also has a very good method of like turning his petty grievances and making them seem like they're systemic problems directed at the white conservative base of support. The issue is the January 6th rioters are freaks. They were too much heart of the MAGA type people. So a lot of the conservatives that otherwise were like, you're right, liberal elitists are fucking shitty. They do look down at us or whatever. And I hate that. Could not identify themselves, the moderates, the moderate suburbans, could not identify themselves with like the freaks that were disgusting and dirty and sweaty and greasy at January 6th, storming the fucking halls, looking for Nancy Pelosi. That's the problem. Pettiness has always been a very good weapon for him. The issue is he tried to do that with January 6th, and it didn't really work. A lot of the moderates were like, yeah, no, those guys are gross. Like, I don't want to be associated with that. Now that I live in LA, I think I need to end my sub. It's time to move on. Nick, you moved to LA? Get ready for the crime, brother.
Or presidential campaign, aside from all the January 6th stuff, aside from sort of the oddities of what he says on Truth Social, the really big damage that he did to himself over the course of the last several months, besides picking not great candidates and not spending money on those candidates, was really over the last week when he decided that just before the election, he was going to attack DeSantis. And then after the election, he decided he was going to attack DeSantis and Youngkin. And Republicans looked at him and they said, wait, dude, who are you attacking? What are you doing? We'll get to more of this in just 1 second. First, inflation continues to plague our economy. The Daily Wire reports that in less than 2 years, inflation...
What is this? No!
But you have to submit your claim by Black Friday. With almost...
He's making a hashtag ad for buying gold? Dude, that's awesome. God, these people are so fucking dumb. I love that.
And presumably, he would wait to see the flop. And he'd wait to see some other cards on the table because he could afford to. He could take his time. He could see what the political circumstances are like in 6 months. What this feels like is Donald Trump is trying to buy the pot with a pair of sixes. And basically, you got a pair of sixes. Not an amazing, like a small pocket pair. And he's scared of the flop because on the flop, you could get a 7 and somebody else could have 2 7s. Or on the flop could be a king and somebody else just has 1 king. And so what he's going to do right now is try to buy the pot by going all in with a pair of sixes. We're going to buy the pot. We're going to buy the blinds. We're going to knock everybody out of the game. I don't think that strategically speaking, it's going to work, but it's an interesting strategy. It's certainly never been tried before, and there's a lot of time before the 2024 elections. I mean, the first primaries don't even happen until early 2024. We're talking about 14 months until the January primaries, the Iowa caucuses in 2024. So this is super early as a strategic matter. Okay, so then Trump decided that he was going to launch this thing at Mar-a-Lago, which again is an interesting move. It's not a pizzazz move. You remember that when he originally launched in 2015, it was a fascinating thing, right? He launched in June of 2015, by the way, right, which is a lot later. That would be like launching in June of 2023, which he's not. He's launching way earlier. And he launched with a 47-minute speech. And it was fascinating because it was all new. Trump's speech last night was very long, like extremely long, like so long that Fox News actually cut out of it about halfway through. Because the speech went, I believe, 64 minutes. which is by any standard a very, very long speech. And it read in some ways almost like a State of the Union address. It had its high points, it had its low points. We're going to go through what the president said in relaunching his 2024 campaign. But the optics of it were a little bit strange, mainly because when he did it in 2015 and there was no base of support, and he came down the escalator and it was like, wow, I can't tell whether this is cheesy or whether this is brilliant. It turns out that it was quite brilliant optically. Doing it at Mar-a-Lago looks like he's sort of holed up in his house, right? I mean, that's where he lives. It's sort of like me going to my living room to announce that I'm running for president of the United States. Mar-a-Lago, everybody knows that's Trump's area. If you were going to launch a popular movement, what you'd really want to do is do like a giant rally, right? You announce this in advance, like I'm going to announce, and we're not going to have 1,000 people in the room. We're going to have 20,000 people in the room, right? We're going to show the power of the Trump train. This train is going. It has no brakes, as they say. And we have 20, 30,000, like we'll fill a stadium with people who love Donald Trump. And it'll scare the living bejesus out of everybody because we'll be out there with a giant crowd. Instead, he launched it at Mar-a-Lago, essentially in his backyard, in a ballroom with like 1,000 people, all of whom were sort of handpicked friends, including people like Roger Stone, which, again, if you're going to have your campaign supporters, you probably should not try to stack people who are actually have been indicted for crimes, like as a general matter. You actually want kind of the best and the brightest.
What?
Roger Stone is not the best and the brightest when it comes to like.
Dog, fuck you mean? Okay, Trump, like. If Trump doesn't have criminals in his circle, he has nothing. The fuck are you talking about? Who's he gonna have in the room then? Nobody?
Like the people you want in your front row. So there's some optical issues here too. And what it really speaks to is that I got to say, just as an optical matter, this did not feel like it had the same sort of extraordinary impact as it did when Trump ran in 2015. When Trump ran in 2015, it was like a bomb went off. Like this was wild. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Trump's been president. And so your campaign as a former president versus your campaign as a real estate guru who's very famous for being on The Apprentice in 2015, that's a totally different thing. And if you're running a very similar campaign to 2015 in 2022 or 2023, it doesn't feel the same. Right? He has the gravitas of having been president behind him, which means he should be doing the Obama thing, right? When Obama ran for re-election in 2012, he was doing it in like giant stadiums, Greek pantheon kind of stuff, fog machines, right? That's what Trump really should have done last night in re-announcing that he was launching. Instead, he did it.
Bro, he's acting like Trump hasn't already been doing fat fucking rallies. Like, this optics shit is so stupid. Ben's criticizing Trump like a fucking liberal, dude. Like, there's no analysis here. He's just like, oh man, Roger Stone was in the room. It's like, bro, Roger Stone was in every room. The fuck are you talking about? Like that. You avoided that shit all the fucking time in the past. You never wanted to talk about it when he was winning. But now that you hate him, you're like, oh man, Roger Stone is fucked up. It's like, shut up. He's like complaining that there is no fucking fog machines. Like, shut up, dude.
In what felt
Ben wants to be XQC so bad. You're not him, bro. You're not him, little bro. Eternal O2, thank you for the 10 gifted subs.
like sort of the safest and most cautious way. And he read from a teleprompter, which of course you would imagine he should do. And it gave everybody who's a big Trump fan the opportunity to say, this is the moment Trump finally became president. Listen, when he was president, I thought the best Trump was teleprompter Trump. Whenever Trump was reading off the teleprompter, I was like, oh, thank God, he's going to say a bunch of useful things. And then when you get off teleprompter, be like, uh-oh, where is this going? I have no idea. Trump got off teleprompter a few times last night, and it was mostly funny. But it didn't feel like top tier Trump. It just didn't. His energy level was fairly low last night.
Subs.
He was not out there kind of roaring and growling the way that he typically does. Now, does this mean that he can't win the Of course not. It's just a launch speech. We have a long way to go, and that's the whole point. I think people who are jumping to, he's in, that means he's the nominee, which means he will be the president. That is a lot of steps between here and there, my friends. That's a lot of steps. He's jumping in November. There will be other people who jump in.
Okay, bye-bye.
Does he have the upper hand? Of course. He has 30% of the base that loves the guy and will walk through fire for him. That gives you a really strong base. And in a divided primary, that could be well enough to just walk right through. That's exactly what happened in 2015, 2016. In the 2016 campaign, it wasn't like Trump was walking away with 70% of the vote. He wasn't. He was winning the early primaries with 25, 30% of the vote. It was only at the very end when the field had basically winnowed down to 2 that he started winning 50% of the vote. But that's enough. Doesn't matter how you win as long as you win. So Trump does have a solid percentage of the base locked up, for sure. But that doesn't mean there won't be other candidates. There will be other candidates. It's very early. And then if he gets the nomination, number one, we don't know whether Biden's even going to be alive by that point. But number two, even if Biden is alive, it's not clear where the economy is going to be.
I wish Tucker Carlson would say some of these truths as well, since they have a bigger audience, but I know they won't. First of all, Tucker Carlson would never say that. Secondly, understand that Ben Shapiro is not speaking truths here. He's actually just making good anti-Trump propaganda to lead you into believing that, because there is some truths in what he's saying, but he's making anti-Trump propaganda that's like leading you to believe that he's right. Like, the idea that Trump can't fucking lock up arenas is silly. Out of any political candidate out there right now, Trump still is number one in locking up arenas. Straight up. Will they cuck Trump like they did Sanders? No, dude. Donald Trump maintains a larger percentage of like actual Republican votes than Bernie ever did. Bernie in 2016 was an anti-Hillary vote. Let's be real. Make no mistake. It was a perfect opportunity for democratic socialism to be mainstreamed a little bit, an idea that people would welcome a little bit, and that was great for the momentum of the left. But in a country as reactionary as the United States of America, like, most of Bernie Sanders' popularity also came from the fact that he was anti-Hillary. The worst thing that the Democratic Party could have done is put someone like Hillary Clinton up against Donald Trump and also against Bernie Sanders. But it did work in our favor. When Bernie was put up against someone who the media largely were able to sell as like the only guy to beat Donald Trump, look at what happened. Biden didn't even step foot in half of the Super Tuesdays. Biden didn't even step foot in half of the Super Tuesday states that he won. Okay? He didn't even have offices. He got billions of free native ads from the media after his predicted South Carolina victory. Bernie also had a huge spoiler. The neoliberals worked alongside Biden, whereas Warren also worked alongside Biden. Dumbass. Anyway. These are important reasons.
One thing that is clear about Donald Trump as a candidate. One, he's extremely volatile. We all know this. We can keep kind of breezing past this, but it happens to be the chief characteristic of the man is that he's extraordinarily volatile, which means he's unpredictable. That has its benefits. It also has its major and severe drawbacks in a campaign, as we saw in 2020. In 2016, it had great benefits. He would say stuff nobody else would say. In 2020, it had severe drawbacks. He would say stuff nobody else would say as president. It also shifts the focus back to Trump. Because if every election is a question as to who the referendum is on, right? Who are the people actually voting for or against? They don't vote for two candidates.
I know the audio and video is not synced up. There's nothing I can do about it.
So they vote against one. So the question in 2024 will be, are you voting based on Joe Biden or are you voting based on Donald Trump? Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be getting into the media's attacks on Trump and what they are hoping to accomplish. Plus, Matt Walsh stops by to talk about his marriage conversation with Joe Rogan. If you're not a member, click the link.
I can't wait for this video, which is not here, but we're going to talk about that right now. Benihana and Matt Walsh got together and talked about marriage. And you know that conversation was going to be insane. Now, the Protect Same-Sex and Interracial Marriage Act is being voted on in the Senate. Of course, Republicans are, they have enough votes, but a lot of Republicans have voted no because they're fucking racist and homophobic and they're psychotic. Ben, on the other hand, had this brilliant take. Ben literally has personally stated over and over again that, one of Trump's issues is that, he's hitting the culture war, but he's not, he's a little too crazy. He's too much of a freak. Ben also simultaneously had this to say.
But put aside the rule of construction, the thing that's really amazing to me is that it is now apparently the law of the land and societal rule that the only rationale that you would possibly have for saying that a marriage is between a man and a woman is because you're a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim. That's really the only reason at all. That the only reason will allow you to have these crazy beliefs so long as you can show that they're crazy beliefs. So long as you can show that the reason that you believe that marriage is between a man and a woman is because you read it in a book and because you really believe the book. They keep saying sincere religious belief. I don't even know how you measure sincere religious belief. Are we going to now monitor how often you go to church or to synagogue, whether you keep kosher or whether you take communion in order to determine you're sincere? The same media that declares that Nancy Pelosi is a sincere religious believer who's just for the mass abortion of unborn.
This one is so stupid. Brother, this is a losing argument. I do not know why you think this is a winning argument. It's over. You lost the war. You got too comfortable with the transphobic rhetoric that you literally think that this is an argument that you can make. It's not. Most people will look to this and go, dude, you're crazy. You're crazy. The suburban whites that we were talking about look to this and go, no shot. There's a gay fella that works at my coffee shop. He's a great worker. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Yeah, sure. Maybe in the fucking pits of Alabama. Okay. You got some people who are on board with this position. But you are out of your fucking mind if you think that this is a good national campaign to be this openly homophobic. This ain't 2008. Okay? It wasn't 2008 even in 2008 if we think about it really, but no fucking shot. Now here's the other thing. Ben's already off the mark on this, on the gay marriage thing. But one interesting thing I have noticed is what Ben is doing strategically. He's not selling this as a religious argument any longer. He's trying to sell this as a rational argument, a logical argument. This was a relatively successful propaganda operation as it pertains to abortions. Ben, perhaps because he is an Orthodox Jew, which makes no mention of abortion and actually sanctions abortion, or because he saw the writing on the wall that America is becoming less and less religious year over year, never made the argument on abortion on religious grounds. Even though the idea that a fertilized egg is a real life begins at conception, is a religious argument. There is no scientific argument around life beginning at conception. But Ben never said that was a religious argument. Ben always said abortion is a life. A fetus is a baby. The fetus is a baby. You're killing a baby. You're killing a baby. He never said who is saying that the fetus is a baby. He just always said you're taking away lives, right? Because Americans are not as religious year over year. They are less and less religious. Less church attendances, less religious overall. So Ben was able to strategically try to reach the broadest audience possible, and I think made successfully some arguments that even non-religious people or people that aren't that religious believed in with respect to abortion. Now, obviously, ultimately at the federal level, regardless of whether you believe abortion is murder or not, it's obvious that 75% of Americans believe that the mother, the carrier, is more important than this fucking fetus, right? Now he's trying to do that for gay marriage, which once again is fucking idiotic and will be even less fruitful than the abortion one.
Children, a little clear that you, Matt Walsh, are not actively in favor of the things that you're in favor of. You're just a religious bigot. You're a bigot, right? And your religion is a cover for your bigotry. I'm highly annoyed by the constant derogation of non-religious arguments into religious arguments. And this is what the left loves to do. They like to say you're pro-life. The reason you're pro-life is because of your crazy religion. And so maybe we can respect your crazy religion along those. That is not the argument for marriage. The argument for marriage has literally nothing to do with religion. You could be a visitor from Mars, and you could see that all of human procreation relies on man, woman, child. This is not particularly difficult stuff. By essentially boxing in the argument in favor of traditional marriage into, well, if you're a crazy religious believer, maybe we'll let you have that. But you know, if you're a cake baker, then we're not sure about that, right? I mean, like we're not sure how.
He's trying to say, if Martians came down to Earth, they would realize that marriage should be between a man and a woman. Which is really stupid, because if you try to make the nature argument, as I correctly pointed out, there are gay-ass animals here on fucking Earth, dog. The fuck do you mean? Aliens would probably be gay as fuck too. Like, there's no concept of sexuality in fucking aliens, idiot.
Allow you to.
But like, Ben, have you never seen an animal? I love the fucking nature, the appeal to nature fallacy, because it's not only a fallacy because we are human beings and like a fundamental part of our existence is overcoming nature. It's not like fucking skyscrapers are in nature, you know? We built that shit, dumbass. Shut the fuck up. Okay? But also, have you never seen like a male dog hump another male dog? Like, have you never been around animals? Did you not learn about the animal kingdom? What a fucking psychotic take.
Marriage and traditional marriage are completely the same thing. And if you object to it, the only reason that will even allow you to do that is because of this crazy thing called religion.
The appealing to nature fallacy is a super common one that like these Christian objectivists or Judeo-Christian objectivists always fucking love to talk about, when in fact like MPreg exists within the animal kingdom. MPreg, okay? I will repeat. MPreg exists in the animal kingdom, okay? Get the fuck out of here, dog.